I'm making this video because I quit my nonprofit job and I think I'm quitting nonprofits forever. I was a nightclub promoter. I was a baker at 85 Degrees. What's up, y'all? My name is Vin. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. Welcome to a new series, and this is called Fun Employment. So, fun employment is a term that I'm going to refer to this period of my life where I am not currently employed, and I'm going to try to make it fun. This name is actually from a Wong Fu series, like one of the OGs of like Asian American YouTube and representation and actual like movie, like cinematic videos on YouTube. Shouts to Wong Fu for like the original Fun Employed series. And I'm just gonna take it as a chapter on where I'm at in life, where I have the privilege of being unemployed without needing any income because I'm living at home. I'm really grateful for my parents for letting me sorry, I'm snacking because I'm hungry. For letting me be here while I'm figuring stuff out. And I was paying rent when I was employed, and so I asked them if I could like not pay rent for a couple months until I figure stuff out. I'm making this video because I quit my nonprofit job, and I didn't just quit my nonprofit job. I think I'm quitting nonprofits forever. So I'm still so hungry. A little bit of background on me. I went to undergrad at University of California, San Diego, in San Diego, California. And I loved going to school at UCSD. I was there for 5 years. I did a history and ethnic studies double major. Has nothing to do with nonprofits and fundraising, but I'll get to it. I realized in undergrad that I love understanding the context in which people actually come from and how that is impacted by the way that history takes shape. That's why I decided to do history and ethnic studies. But after graduating, I realized I didn't want to do a master's program in critical ethnic studies, even though I had gotten accepted into 2 programs. I knew I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to be in academia because I just felt like systemically that didn't align with what I had learned and how I wanted to apply it. So I really didn't know what I was going to do. In like that time period right after undergrad, I had a temporary contract for the library that I was already working at. I also got a job offer from Yelp because a friend of mine had a job there, and he helped me land an interview. And I ended up just not taking that role because I didn't feel like I wanted to be in San Francisco. For being honest, a little bit of that is the relationship I was in at the time. I didn't want to leave him. I realized now that I made that choice and didn't focus on my career for a long time because of that, because I was much more invested in relationships that I had, romantic as well as platonic. In those years after college, I was a nightclub promoter. I was a baker at 85 Degrees. I worked a marketing job for 2 days. Then I was an administrative assistant for a coffee company. And then I landed my first nonprofit job, which was a communications and events coordinator. And I really liked the events piece, but I didn't really like the demographic we were serving, which was HOAs, which are homeowner associations. And they're basically entities that control and govern properties that people live in, such as suburban homes or apartment complexes, and sometimes even regular properties that are just houses. So I was in that role, but that was my first nonprofit job. I was there for a year and a half. And then I landed a job as a philanthropy coordinator at an LGBT serving nonprofit. And I loved that job. I realized I was queer in that job. I realized I could do well doing fundraising. And I understood what programming for community members that you were serving actually looks like. And sometime during that job, I realized I hadn't fulfilled a dream that I had been holding on to for 6 years, which was moving to Chicago. 2.5 years into that job, I realized I needed to make a change, and my partner and I moved to Chicago, where I was a development manager for a government entity. And in that role, quickly realized government work is not for me. It is too monotonous, too routine, too bureaucratic in the way that stuff happens at a very slow level. And so it's not a place to make change. It's not a place to be unique. It's not a place to be recognized either. I knew that I couldn't be there any longer. I actually knew I didn't like that job maybe 3 months in. And 3 months into that job is when I started making content. I made my first YouTube channel that I no longer make updates on because I was so bored at that job. I could do that job and read and work on some creative stuff at work. So I kind of started doing that. And a year of being at that job, I applied for a different set of jobs. And I landed one, which was a organization, a nonprofit that serves first-generation college students. First gen being students who are the first in their families to go to college. And it was really awesome programming that they do. I still really believe in that mission, and I think it's so, so important. But I was a grant manager there, so continuing on this role of like fundraising. And I realized really quickly that I was bored in the role, and it had nothing to do with the mission, because the mission was really good. And in theory, like, I've worked in nonprofits my whole life, so it was like, what's wrong, you know? And then I had to move back. Like, my partner and I made a decision to move from Chicago back to Los Angeles. For the first time since we were both like 18, we moved back to Los Angeles. And I knew I couldn't afford to like not have this job. So I stayed in this job, and I stayed in this job, and I stayed in this job. It brings us to September 2024. And I have this conversation with someone on my team. And basically she says that, actually these are the exact words she used, that the quality of my work was declining, which is true, and that my job was in jeopardy. And when she said that my job was in jeopardy, I didn't panic. The first thing that I thought of was, how much PTO do I have? How much vacation would I get paid out? And how much is my savings account? And it was so clear in that moment that I didn't want to stay. I had been telling myself that I wanted to be nonprofits because I had been in them for so long, and this is what I had grown to be able to do in the last 7 years of my career. It's not actually what I want to do. So that brings us to right now. Right now, I am FUNemployed. So after I had that conversation with that former manager, I, thought about it for a couple of days, and they were gracious enough to give me 2 days to think about it. And, I wanted to be clear that this org happened to be the one to tell me and call me out on it, but it has nothing to do with them personally that I'm leaving the nonprofit sector. It's just that I have seen enough, I have worked in it enough that I know this is not for me. And that's okay. Even if I just spent the last 7 years in this space, it's okay for me to like come out of it and really like reframe what I want my life to look at. And that's what I'm doing. It takes a couple days to think about it, and then I told them like, hey, I actually want to leave, so here's my notice. Again, no animosity to any of the previous orgs that I've worked at. It was never about them. It was actually, really, it was me, not you. Now I've had like a couple weeks since I left that job, that last nonprofit job, and I'm like, wow, I feel so free. I feel so free to do my creative stuff. I feel so free to explore my interests. Working on all this creative stuff the last 2 years, I've gotten really good at like figuring out how to market, how to do communications plans and strategies. And like, I know how to generate ideas to kind of convey the stories that I want to convey. And I was like, wow, whoa, should probably be looking at like marketing and communications roles and branding and that kind of thing. So those are the kinds of roles that I'm looking for. It's been really like, I don't know, it's been such a breath of fresh air to be able to focus on me and like just my day-to-day needs for now, because I kind of gave myself a buffer. Like, I know I'm not going to be able to land a job within a month. Like, that's just not how the job industry works. I know I'll have a better chance of landing a job around January through March, because that is when fiscal years begin. That's when people have room in their budget to hire new people. And that's when a lot of people like tend to leave, is usually at the end of a summer or at the end of winter and into the new year. This was a bunch of word vomit, and hopefully it comes out into like a video that could be helpful for somebody. Yeah, right now I'm going through this journey of fun employment, and I'm gonna try to make it fun, and I'm also gonna make it realistic. Like, it's not always gonna be fun, and that's okay. But I'm trying to stay true to creating stuff I want to create, because I think that's ultimately what's going to bring me the most joy in the long term. I think making content and stuff is going to be a thing I want to do for a really long time. And I haven't monetized anything yet, and that's okay. I think that gives me a lot of freedom to really trial and experiment, find my voice, find my audience, and I have no deadline on that. I can always get a job. Finding a job, something that gives me money, is easy. Finding, like, having a vocation, which is, a sense of purpose, a higher sense of purpose, and like, that is something no one can take from you, and it shouldn't be something that has to make money. I eventually want a career again, where a career is like a job that I am passionate about. I do want that again. But right now, I know it'll take time to like kind of build the experience that I want, given that I don't have experience in this field yet. And one of the ways that I'm going to do that is to reach out to friends of mine that have like either creative projects or social media accounts that have a following, and see how I can support them so that I can get some experience doing that work. So that's the plan for now, and that's the plan for this series. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Here's to fun employment. I'm gonna keep eating.